Marlene Sassaman began sailing in 1980. She is a U.S. sailing small boat instructor and a U.S. Coast Guard licensed captain. To earn the degree of Doctor of Education, Marlene combined her research on adult learning with her passion for sailing. She was the director of the sailing program at the Melbourne Yacht Club in Florida for several years. Now, 1 week short of her 72nd birthday, she is still an avid racer with many ocean miles under her bow.
Well, thank you for having me, and I appreciate everybody who's tuning in to listen to my story of uncharted waters. A little bit of fear and a whole lot of fun. In June of 2008, on my F-28 Corsair, which is pictured behind me, I untied from my friend Linda McGarry's dock in Palm Bay, Florida, to begin my first solo cruise to New York Harbor. Well, I wasn't really alone. I had Sammy, my puppy, who was barely a year old, serve as first mate. Our intent was to sail along the coast of the U.S., the east coast of the U.S., but each time we poked our nose out an inlet, the wind and waves were not in our favor. So we got a lot of practice navigating the tides, currents, and timing of each of the many bridges that had to open for us. Because of the time it took to sail up the ICW and the fact that we had to anchor every night, we missed our mark on making New York Harbor. But when we got to the top of the Chesapeake, I was greeted by two special people. One, my sister Jane drove down, and also at that time, a Facebook friend who I had never met before showed up at the dock, Suki Cannon, with whom I'm friends with to this day. So after the long sail up to Chesapeake City, where it meets the Delaware River, we were anxious to go back home. And because I had done so much planning for this trip, using paper charts, GPS, and talking to people, getting local knowledge, the sail back was to be a breeze. In fact, the wind was so perfect on the first day back down the Chesapeake, we averaged 15 knots as we headed south. We flew by Annapolis, where they were having their 4th of July regatta. There were so many boats that we wove our way through as we cruised at a rapid pace down the Chesapeake. But soon, a few days later, things were much calmer when we came to a crossroad. And what do you do when you come to a crossroad? Yeah, take it, even though it wasn't on the chart. Well, slowly, Sammy and I meandered down this tributary that also wasn't on the chart. I don't know, after an hour or so, we came to this lake. The tributary just opened up, this big, huge lake, and it was very quiet. We were barely drifting along at about 2 or 3 knots. And we spotted a fishing boat at the other end of the lake, looked like a couple of fishermen in it. Wow, it was so quiet and beautiful. Pow! Pow, 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 pow! Sammy, what's all that powing? Off in the distance, we see this other small boat kind of charging toward us across the lake. And it had a contraption on the front. I don't know, maybe in my hysteria, I thought it was a machine gun, but it was pow, 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 powing. Scared the bejeebies out of me. We turned the boat around and continued our way back toward where the fork in the road was. But this time we took the other fork, which thankfully led us to more tranquil waters. So much for that 1% of fear associated with sailing. I want you to look now at this rainbow arcing between two islands, inviting you to experience the bliss of sailing. And if you look real close, there's a double rainbow above the main rainbow. It was several years after that horrific experience with the Marines that my boyfriend and I set off to explore the southern Bahamas. Oh, we went to all the places everybody goes, Georgetown, the national park there, Nassau, and so on. But one morning we saw this little speck on the chart. It was just a little blue dot among some coral. And we said, hey, let's go take it. After all, we had a boat with a shallow draft. So even though the channel wasn't marked, we proceeded. Being on a trimaran, our center hole only had a draft of 2.5 feet, and we could go right down the center. But the amas on either side were up in the air, because outside that 3-foot width depth of that center channel, the water was barely 6 inches. So the big catamarans couldn't get in because they needed 2 holes in 2 feet of water. And the traditional monohulls couldn't get in because even though they had a single hull, their depth is usually 4 feet or deeper. Wow, what a spot. The inside that area, the water opened up to about a mile. It was pretty wide. So we spent 4 days honeymooning there in this uncharted section of the Bahamas. So what I want you to take away from this she story of uncharted waters is that whenever you set out for a sail, whether it's chartered or not chartered, remember the cliche that sailing brings only 1% of fear and 99% of pure bliss. Thank you for listening.
Thank you, Marlene. Oh, let's see. We've got the sound effects now.
Yeah, that's cute. Good work. Thank you, Charlotte, and everybody associated with the National Women's Sailing Association. What you have brought to my life at this time in my life can never be repaid. Thank you.
Oh, thank you so much. And your storytelling is so evocative, Marlene. Thank you so much. What was the gun thing? Did you ever find?
I missed that sentence. So apparently what I learned from radio contact with people, it was the Marines, and they were out doing target practice. Sorry, I forgot.
Yeah, talk about increasing that 1% of fear a little higher.
A little bit. Yeah.
Thank you so much, Marlene.
Will you shine a light in your window tonight? Will you burn it brightly for me? For these are dark, uncharted waters, with no mercy on a sailor lost